Rwanda's President Paul Kagame has emerged as a very controversial figure based on the ongoing regional hostilities between Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of the Congo that involve the M23 Rebels invading the eastern part of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Even though Rwanda is not directly involved in the war with the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the DRC government and countries in Africa and across the world accuse Rwanda of backing the Tutsi-led M23 rebel group, which is currently terrorizing the eastern part of DRC. The M23 rebels, however, denied the allegations of them being backed by Rwanda and insist they are Congolese people and are not funded by anyone. Based on these recent events, Paul Kagame has come under huge criticism, especially from South Africa, after several South African soldiers were killed in the battle. But who is Paul Kagame and what is his history? President Paul Kagame was born in the southern part of Rwanda to a Tutsi family that was politically prominent. The Rwandan colonial masters, who were from Germany and Belgium at the time, exploited the ethnic divisions among the Rwandan population by favoring the country's Tutsis while sidelining the Hutu ethnic group. The majority of the Tutsis were appointed into high-ranking positions because the colonial masters regarded them to be better than the Hutus. Because of the sidelining of the Hutus towards independence in 1959, a Hutu rebel movement staged violent attacks against the Tutsi community, and Kagame's family fled to the neighboring Uganda as refugees. Paul Kagame was only 2 years old when his family fled to Uganda, and he began his schooling while living in the refugee camp. Kagame grew up in the refugee camp and went on to complete his secondary education in Uganda's capital, Kampala. During this time, Kagame traveled to Rwanda occasionally to visit his family members and reconnect with his native land. During this time, Idi Amin Dada was the president, and rebel armies occasionally attacked Amin's government from their bases in Tanzania. In 1979, these rebel groups, with the help of the Tanzanian forces, overthrew the government of Amin Dada, and Milton Obote became the president. During Milton Obote's regime, he threatened the persecution of Kagame's fellow refugees, and for this reason, Paul Kagame and another Tutsi leader called Rwigema joined a new movement against Obote's rule called the National Resistance Army, which was led by the current president of Uganda, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni. After they overthrew the government of Milton Obote in 1986, Paul Kagame was rewarded with a senior officer position in the Ugandan army under President Museveni. After becoming successful in Uganda, Paul Kagame began to become more ambitious and turned to his native country, and alongside Rwigema and fellow Tutsis in exile, they formed the Rwanda Patriotic Front and started fighting against the regime in Rwanda. During that time, there was a huge division in the leadership of Rwanda, and several moderate Hutus who were dissatisfied with the country's Hutu-led regime joined the Rwandan Patriotic Front, and the group became even larger. Paul Kagame was then selected by the Ugandan Army for an advanced study at the United States Army Command and General Staff College in Leavenworth, Kansas. In 1990, while Paul Kagame was studying in the military school in the US, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, led by Rwigema, staged its first attack against the government of Rwanda, and Rwigema was killed in the battle. Upon hearing the death of Rwigema, Paul Kagame returned and became the leader of the Rwandan Patriotic Front. In 1993, the Rwandan Patriotic Front, led by Paul Kagame, had gained significant territorial grounds in Rwanda, forcing the Rwandan government to agree to a ceasefire. While they were still negotiating for a peace settlement, the plane that was carrying the then president of Rwanda, Juvenal Habyarimana, was shot down while approaching the capital, Kigali. President Habyarimana died on the spot, and immediately extremist Hutu leaders called for the killing and expulsion of the Tutsi population from the country. The ethnic tensions were worsened by radio broadcasters and members of the clergy fueling ethnic hatred that led to a wave of senseless killings across the entire country as neighbors murdered neighbors with any tool that they could find. These events led to one of the worst genocides in human history that lasted for 100 days and claimed lives of hundreds of thousands of people, including men, women, and children, most of whom were of the Tutsi community and moderate Hutus who opposed the genocide. The Rwandan Patriotic Front resumed their fight against the government of Rwanda, and in 1994, they succeeded in deposing the Hutu-led government and brought an end to the genocide. Pastor Bizimungu, who was an ethnic Hutu spokesperson of the Rwandan Patriotic Front, became the president, while Paul Kagame was named the vice president and the Minister of Defense. Kagame's first mandate was to restore law and order, and he prosecuted a number of his own Rwandan Patriotic Front members who participated in the genocide. The perpetrators of the Rwandan genocide fled to the neighboring Zaire and continued their raids from the refugee camps in Zaire. Kagame's army pursued the Hutu perpetrators into Zaire, and Rwanda became embroiled in the Zaire civil war. At the moment, there was a rebellion brewing up against the then Zaire dictator Mobutu Sese Seko, and Rwanda, with the help of Uganda and Burundi, deposed the government of Mobutu Sese Seko, and Laurent Kabila became the president of Zaire and renamed the country to the Democratic Republic of the Congo. After a short period of Kabila's regime, tensions appeared again between the new DRC government and its neighbors, and Rwanda and Uganda intervened for the second time. However, the conflict escalated into what is now known as the Great War of Africa, or the Second Congo War, involving 9 countries and more than 20 armed factions. The war halted the reconciliation process in Rwanda, and in 2000, President Bizimungu resigned and Paul Kagame succeeded him as the president of Rwanda. In 2003, Rwanda adopted its first constitution, and Paul Kagame was elected to his first full term as the president of Rwanda. After becoming the president, Paul Kagame agreed to an international peace settlement, and the long war in Congo came to an end. Kagame withdrew the Rwandan forces from Congo, and the Congolese government agreed to disarm and repatriate the Rwandan Hutu insurgents in its own territories. Paul Kagame was now free to pursue national reconciliation and economic development while preaching forgiveness and ending tribalism. Between 2004 and 2010, Rwanda experienced rapid economic growth and continues to meet milestones in education, employment, and several other sectors. President Kagame is credited for transforming the genocide-torn country into one of the fastest-growing countries in Africa. In 2004, former President Pastor Bizimungu was imprisoned for attempting to form a rebel group, but Paul Kagame forgave him in 2007 and he was released from prison. Kagame instituted strict laws in Rwanda, including genocide denial and tribal politics being crimes that might put you in prison indefinitely. Foreign observers and Hutu dissidents, however, claim that the laws have been used to suppress freedom of speech and opposition parties. Even after becoming the president, speculations have always been there as to who brought down the plane of President Habyarimana, something that led to the genocide, and in 2009, a French court accused Paul Kagame of orchestrating the death of President Habyarimana, but Rwandan investigators concluded that the plane was brought down by Hutu extremists who were seeking to derail the peace process. Since 2000, Paul Kagame has ruled Rwanda with an absolute dictatorship, crushing opposition leaders and sometimes eliminating critics. Many critics of his government have gone to exile, with some being followed and murdered while in exile. And this brings us to an end to the brief history of Paul Kagame. Thank you for watching this video to the end. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe as I bring you more information on the African continent, people, and culture.